Hey, the data on the Orange County market is just in and things continue to change. This is an unusual market and I want to tell you what's going on, so stay tuned. This is Dean Odell with Seven Gables Real Estate in the Odell Group. Today is September 19th, 2024. We're going to dive into the data right now, so let's take a look. So looking at this first slide, this is a preview of things to come because this is showing us right now what the typical autumn market looks like compared to how this market looks now. So usually at this point in time, we are seeing a supply decrease, we are seeing demand decrease slightly, and we are seeing not much change in the marketing time. Now, if we move down to the bottom of this chart, where we are now, we're seeing somewhat of the opposite because we are seeing an increase in supply, we're still seeing a decrease in demand, and we're seeing marketing time steadily go up. So let's look at how that looks now, starting with the active listing inventory. Okay, and just to remind you guys, we are the purple line for 2024. Look where it is going. It has been on a steady increase at a time where the market is usually flattening out or going down. So our inventory keeps increasing. That is a good thing for buyers. And today's inventory is 3,695 homes. You could see it's up a little bit from 2 weeks ago and up a lot from last year. More than 1.5 times more inventory this year than last year, but still behind that 3-year average of 6,525 homes that we saw prior to COVID. So let's go to the next slide and see how demand looks. Today, there are 1,413 homes that have gone into escrow in the last 30 days. That is down from 2 weeks ago. So when we look at that purple line, we could see that the purple line is acting somewhat normal for this time of year. It is going down, it's staying with the trend, but so when we look at this number of 1,413 homes, we have to ask ourselves, why is demand going down to these historically low values when we actually have more inventory and interest rates have decreased quite a bit over the last 60 days or so? So we're going to visit that later on in the video. You could see last year we were at 1,474 homes and the 3-year average before that was 2,363. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so let's look at the expected marketing time year over year. Look at that purple line again. It's doing nothing but going straight up. Last time we saw this was in 2022, and you can see how that purple line compares with the previous years. Today we are at 78 days on the market, a little bit up from 2 weeks ago, and last year we were at 48 days. So that's an additional 30 days to get a home sold right now. And the 3-year average, which we're moving towards the norm, is 84 days. So we've got about 6 more days before we get to that normal time period that was prior to COVID. Looking at this next slide, you can see our brackets have shifted and changed a little bit. Very even, actually, right? The hot sellers market is the top bracket, which is anything under $1 million, is still selling in under 60 days. Now, what's interesting is you could look at last year and see that it was nearly half of what it is this year in terms of the time to get a house in escrow. So going and moving down from the $1 million to $1.5 million price ranges, you can see that those time frames are also up, and that is a slight seller's market. Below that now we have 2 price categories. Anywhere between $1.5 to $4 million now is considered a balanced market where neither the buyer or the seller have an advantage. You can see the time frame, the marketing time for that has nearly doubled between the $1.5 million and $2 million range, and it's just a little bit more for the $2 million to $4 million range. And then of course, as always, it seems, we have the deep buyer's market when you get over $4 million. So you can see how that stacks up. Okay, now it's time to look at the Tustin data chart. We're going to compare August 2024 with the prior year for the 3 zip codes that you see there, 92705, 92780, and 92782. One thing you'll notice is that inventory is up in all those zip codes, what's for sale. The new listings are starting to dwindle, which is normal for this time of year. They normally start going down. Had a little bit of bump in the 92782. We look at the solds, and I like to look at those solds because I want to compare how many solds and also below that, how many pendings are going on in that zip code as compared to how many homes are on the market. So we know we have 53 homes for sale in the 92705 zip code. 21 closed escrow this month and 22 went back into escrow. That means we have 53 divided by 22, roughly, we have about 2.5 months of inventory. And that is an increase. Remember, there's times where we have been under a month, like we see in some of these other zip codes in 92780 and 92782. Those are faster moving markets. Now you got to ask yourself, why is that happening? Why are they faster moving markets? For one reason, in the 92705 zip code, you can see it has a much higher active price. So people are asking $2.36 million for a home when you look at the average sold price is only $1.71 million. That's a pretty big spread between the average active price and the average sold price. When you know a market is really active and really firing on all cylinders is when you see that active price and the average sold price almost exactly the same, like they are in the 92780 zip code. You've got the average active price, at 1.14 and the average sold price at 1.15. I mean, that is really good. That means people are willing to pay what's being listed in that zip code on average. You look at 92782, you'll see it's fairly close as well. And if you look at the inventory for both of those zip codes, you can see there's less inventory in those zip codes. The next thing we want to look at is final list price to sales price, and you can see in the more expensive zip code, the 92705 zip code, it's 99%, but if you look at the next category down, what was it originally? It's selling at 97%. So on average, people have had to reduce their price by 2% before they get an offer to sell it at 99%. That's how tight the price range is, okay? So you can see on an original list price to sold price, people are getting 97% within 3%, but they're still having to reduce about 2%. If you look at that average sold price of 1.71, that means people are having to reduce their price about $34,000, $35,000 before they get within $17,000 of the price. So the market is very, very price sensitive. And then you can see how that compares in the other two zip codes. And let's look at the average days on the market. Now, one thing that's really fortunate that you'll notice is if you compare the price points for these zip codes and the average days on the market with the prior chart that I showed you, what you're going to notice is that our Tustin area zip codes move at almost 3 times the speed of the average in Orange County. So we are in a very good market, very desirable market that people want to live in. We just got to make sure that our houses are priced competitively and for the market. So if you want to take a longer look at this chart, freeze it here, compare it with the previous chart, and I'm going to move on to my advice for buyers and sellers. Okay, so buyers, here's your advice, okay? Normally what happens is we'll look back at fourth quarter sales, and generally they're usually the best sales, the best buys of the year. And the reason for that is because so many sellers start overpriced that they don't get that activity right in the beginning of the listing that enables them to get their sales price, their list price, or even higher sometimes, a multiple offer situation. When they overprice and they fish and they test the market a little bit, generally they end up having to reduce, anywhere between 2 to 5%. I think you saw the average in a lot of the places is somewhere in the 2 to 3% range. But either way, they lose a little bit of momentum by fishing the market. But that's how they want to price. They want to try it because this is not an exact science. So you can see what happens there is if you can pick off one of those houses that's been sitting around for a little bit, you can get it at a better price than it would be if you had to pay for it in the first week, right? Now, additionally to that, you have interest rates that have hit 6%? Some people are getting in the 5s now. The rates are down almost 2%. So for a lot of buyers, that will give them as much as 10, 15%, as high as 20% purchasing power when you get rates that are 2% lower than where we were. So that's really a good signal, a good buy signal. And I hear buyers say, well, I'm just going to wait. Things are too expensive. Prices are going to go down. Well, we're not seeing that in the data. We're going to still need to see a whole lot more inventory hit the market before prices are going to fall, because relative to demand, there's still only a couple of months of inventory. So you have to look at your price range and see what's going on, but just know the good houses are still selling. The well-priced houses are still selling. And what's going to happen when we hit 2025, most likely, is some of these houses are going to hang around. The new houses are going to come on the market and just add to it. There's going to be this surplus of inventory. Interest rates may float down even more, which means you're going to even have more competition, right? You know, there's going to be more people that come into the marketplace. But I don't think things are going to get worse next year in terms of activity. I think things are only going to get better. And the activity is already up over last year's activity. So even though it's a little slow this month, activity in general is way up from last year. So now, I'm going to say the same thing I say to you guys all the time. Don't have fear of missing out. Make sure you buy something you want and you want to live in for a long time right now. Okay? Sellers, advice for you. Sellers, there's a lot of people who are, especially in the high end, seeing their houses sit around for a while. Just saw a house that had to drop like 7-8% in the almost $4 million price range. And then boom, it was in escrow in 2 weeks after sitting almost 100 days, okay? So the buyers are out there, they're educated, they've seen everything that's been coming on the market. It's very hard to trick them too much, you know? So be careful on how you price, because it's gonna cost you later if you don't price right coming out of the chute. And if you need help with that, call an expert, call someone who's been through this stuff before, who knows the area, and that would be us, the Odell Group. We can help you out. We work all the different price ranges you guys out there. This year we've sold houses from $300,000 to $3 million, you know, or more. So we don't discriminate on price, okay? We're gonna give you guys the best service no matter what price range you're in, whether you're a buyer or whether you're a seller. And we hope you'll give us a call. So I will see you guys on the next Tustin Talks. If you have any comments, please comment, please like, please share. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.